We've found a number of studies, too, that are very disturbing. For instance, we've discovered that since the end of World War II, and I will buy dinner for anybody who can prove me wrong, no Muslim insurgency has been defeated, ever, anywhere. What we also know is that it just took 2 to 3% of the American population, the British population of America, at the time to say, no longer do we want to speak with John Police accents, and no longer do we want to pay the king what he wishes us to pay him. 3%, that's all it took. There is a one-third rule, which is one-third were loyalists, one-third, these are rough figures, one-third were sitting on the fence to see who would win, and one-third were loyal to the cause to liberate and divorce themselves from the British government at the time. You have to ask yourself, too, this. When I say secession, it's not a four-letter word. 10 years ago, secession was a four-letter word. I could not say that in polite conversation. Now I can say it. But think about this. People question about this. That's unpatriotic. What you have to tell them is, in 5,000 years of Western history, much less Eastern history, how do nation-states evolve? They secede. That's what they do. They break apart, and they evolve into something else.
I have a question. I'd like you to talk about, we've talked before and shared with the audience, you've already touched on it, some skills that we might want to have as fundamental to our maintaining our freedom. I'd like you to talk about what, and of course, you know, the ability to hit a target at a certain distance or whatever, but I mean, what are some of the skills that our mandatory youth indoctrination camps have tried to beat out of the next generation? What is the few things, a couple of things, that they must remove from our character in order for them to prevail?
I'm going to answer that question with something that you wouldn't expect from me, because I know I love guns. I do. And I can talk about this all day, but I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to talk about is critical thinking. What is critical thinking? Thinking about thinking, to improve your thinking for better thinking. That's all it is. That's all it is. But why don't people think critically? Because it's hard work. Another reason they don't think critically is because they may find themselves apart from the herd. They may find themselves cut from the herd. Everybody in this audience before me, unless there's a neocon here, unless there's somebody who's drank the constitutional Kool-Aid, are people who think for themselves. You guys have cut yourselves self-selectively out of the herd. You said, you know what? I don't like the red pill a lot. I don't like the Matrix. I think it's pretty foul, and I think it's pretty injurious to freedom and freedom. And bottom line is, I don't think it's virtuous. It is critical thinking skills. Other more mundane skills, once you've mastered critical thinking, by the way, which will never happen during your lifetime. I'm still working on it. I mentioned Friday evening, when it comes to skills, in the Great Depression during the 1930s, people were much closer to the land, people fabricated those things themselves, people knew cobblers, people knew how to sew their clothing, they knew how to do all that stuff. And the Great Depression in the 30s was awful. Awful. People died. Families were separated. But guess what? They were far better off than we're going to be. Because we don't know how to make our food. We don't know where it comes from. We don't know how to exercise properly. You know, I'm fond of saying that if it weren't for cities, we wouldn't have socialism, because I do think it's an urban phenomenon. But how many of you folks know urban folks who pride themselves on their lack of sufficiency? It's time for you to reverse that and to pride yourself on your self-sufficiency. And I want to say one other thing in regard to that. Self-sufficiency doesn't exist without a community. A community of like-minded individuals, not so like-minded individuals, people who may have some disparity of opinion, but nonetheless can get along well and be gentlemen. All of us have separate skills. One of my friends here happens to be probably one of the foremost FAL gunsmiths in America. And he's sitting right there, his name's Skip Lytle. Skip, raise your hand. That's a skill set. I don't have that skill set, but I'm very good when it comes to the manipulation of weapons. I know how to use them. But when I have a problem with them, I just go, oh, Skip, you may fire. That's it. But we all take that and extrapolate it out. We all have our own individual skill sets, hone those, sharpen them, get together with your family, friends, and community, and say, what skills do you have? My wife is a master gardener. She's a master homeschool. she's a master of other things I won't go and mention, but it gives me a smile on my face nonetheless. But that's what you have to do. That's the preparation of the broad stroke, is that what you have to get into your heads is that this collapse is coming. It's not if, it's when. And the more prepared you are, the better.
Actually, I agree with that last point. As far as community being almost worth more than gold and guns at the end, basically at the end of the day. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of promote Appleseed for a moment. You know, Appleseed Project and groups like them, I think, are almost a barometer, the canary in the coal mine for the temperament of America. And what do you see now as far as the interest and the growth of those programs?
Well, I think the Appleseed Project, of which I'm a shoot boss and an instructor here in the state of Arizona. As a matter of fact, most of the instructor cadre for the state of Arizona is sitting at that table. For the state of Arizona. So you can see that there's a certain self-selection process. And it is a program, though, that does have a national institution. At corporate level in Appleseed, we like to proclaim from them to us, we are not a political organization. We are not a Second Amendment organization. We're not a constitutional organization. We're not an organization that tells you to vote. Some of them do. I don't, because I think you can gnaw your grass down with your teeth and better make use of your time than casting a vote. Appleseed's great, because what Appleseed does is we all get together as a community and we shoot. And whether you're an officer or an expert, myself and my instructor crew here, we will make you better shooters, period, with a rifle. But we also share the heritage with you. We talked about April 19, 1775. It's a magical device and vessel to use because I can take this one time shot, this one snapshot in America and show you that the linkage between marksmanship and liberty is welded together. That if you can't protect yourself, and if you can't use guns, which are liberty's teeth, in the end you will be a slave. So to me, that's the most important thing that comes out of Appleseed. And I urge everybody here to, is it Appleseed.org? Someone is? Appleseedinfo.org. Appleseedinfo.org. You can go there, the website. Please sign up. I have 4 shoots in 2011. I have one coming up December 18th and 19th down in Sierra Vista, which I will not do. February, April, September, December, we will be having Appleseed shoots in Sierra Vista. We have them all over the state. That's where I'm from, Sierra Vista. I run all the shoots. And by the way, I'm the only one who has an Articles of Confederation shoot inventory.
Thank you, William. This has been a great start this morning to a day. Stand here a second, because I close on TV. Thank you. That's sort of one you got last night.
You tucked me in.
The thing is that this prediction of what's coming is very scary to a lot of people. And the more you give them the evidence of what's going to happen, the more they dig their foxhole, the more that they add up their sandbags, the more that they get recalcitrant in their position. And I'm just glad that we have people like William that are able to articulate it calmly, that we know what's coming, we need to prepare for it, and in the end, it'll make us all better people if we can focus on what the goal is in individual freedom. Thank you, Bill, for coming and sharing with us.